Why billionaires are lonely. Does having a lot of money prevent you from being happy? One method to investigate this is to consider whether or not money can purchase the components that make up happiness. And no component has been more thoroughly studied or is more influential than social ties. This issue, which addresses the connection between wealth and social bonds, does not have a straightforward response. Recent studies contradict one another, with one indicating that wealthy people spend less time socializing and the other claiming that they feel less lonely due to their wealth. Both of these studies were conducted very recently. In the first study, researchers from Emory University and the University of Minnesota analyzed survey answers from close to 120,000 people living in the United States. They focused on questions on families' yearly income and the activities they participated in socially. According to the findings of their study, those who have more salaries spend less time socializing and more time alone. People with higher incomes spent less time with their families and more time with their friends when they did socialize. Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on our channel. In today's video, we're going to be looking at why billionaires are lonely. Yeah, you heard it right. So let's get started with our video. What are some of the several ways this may be interpreted? People with better salaries are less likely to depend on family or financial or logistical support. As a result, they devote a greater portion of their social time to more thoughtful and even strategic connections. Could those with higher incomes put family commitments lower on their priority list than attending social gatherings or professional networking events? This subject is not addressed in this research, nor is there a comparison between the significance of ties with friends and those with family in terms of overall contentment. On the other hand, the vast majority of people would agree that devoting more time to social relationships, whether these bonds are with family or friends, is likely to result in better, more authentic connections, a reduction in feelings of loneliness, and an increase in the amount of pleasure experienced. The second research looked at the phenomenon of loneliness, which is considered the polar opposite of experiencing love and belonging, and is associated with lower levels of happiness. According to the findings of these studies, loneliness may be defined as a perceived mismatch between intended and real social connections, a felt loss of control over the number, and more crucially, the quality of one's social participation. Their analysis of survey data for more than 16,000 German individuals reveals that loneliness follows a rolling topography throughout life, with large peaks between the ages of 35 and 60, and steady growth following. This pattern of loneliness could not be explained by looking at other factors such as the frequency of social interaction, marital status, or several friends. 65-year-olds were lonelier than 45-year-olds regardless of whether or not they had the same number of friends. On the other hand, money was a significant factor that served as an indicator of the opposite of loneliness. A higher income, independent of other aspects of living conditions, was shown to be consistently related to a reduced self-rated level of loneliness. The conclusion that more is always better may be drawn much too easily from these statistics. Because a lower income is associated with higher levels of loneliness, increasing one's wealth should, over time, result in that individual experiencing less loneliness. On the other hand, most mental processes follow a U-shaped contour, with equivalent, usually undesirable outcomes at very low and very high levels, and an ideal range of functioning between these two extremes. People with very high wages may avoid having meaningful relationships with their families, friends, and even strangers. Even though those with extremely low salaries may lack the bandwidth to attend to or engage in profound social interactions. Is there a certain amount of money that, in addition to boosting happiness and relieving stress, also promotes people to form meaningful relationships with one another? Does one's level of money eventually cause them to have less need to interact with other people? All of these are issues that need more investigation and consideration. The findings indicate that persons with higher incomes report feeling less lonely, even though they spend less time engaging in social activities. Examine the study on money and power, which suggests that higher privilege, whether earned or rewarded in a laboratory experiment, is related to a more inwardly centered personality and socially isolated. If loneliness is defined as control and desired quality and quantity, and if strong individuals tend to take control of situations and disregard the contributions of others, then the affluent may have a lower perception of their level of loneliness. This decline, rather than reflecting the actual intensity or availability of social connections, reveals a lack of desire in such relationships. I'm not lonely. I don't want to converse with other people. Well, that's all for today's video. Tell us in the comments section how today's video was. I hope that you found this one interesting. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing for more. And don't forget to provide us with your valuable feedback. We'll see you in the following video with some more notable celebrities, facts, and stories. And until then, stay tuned.